Now we're going to validate the password, basically checking whether the number of characters is 6 or more, basically. So our default case still after our else state within our else statement, if we've got for email, then after this we do else if statement, and the condition will be element dot has class, and we're looking for object validation dot class password validation, then end isn't, so exclamation mark object validation dot password validation, and we pass the value as the parameter. So if this condition isn't true, obviously, if this condition is true, meaning that obviously either it hasn't got a password class assigned to it, or it didn't validate as a correct password, basically having less than 6 characters, then we're going to do exactly the same thing as with the other conditions. We basically display our validation message and put the ID into the valid array. So now copy the name of the password validation method, scroll down, and after our email validation, comma, and the name of our new method, function, and the parameter will be password, 2 curly brackets, and that's it. Now simply return, and we go for password length is less than 6, then false, otherwise true. Meaning if the password length is less than 6 characters, then it's obviously failing, so it's false. Otherwise, it's true. So that's fine. If we save the file, now go back to our browser, refresh, type in, let's say, 3 characters, hit enter. You can see the password field has been cleared, and obviously it tells us that it wasn't valid. Now, if I type in, let's say, more than 6 and hit enter, the validation is gone, but obviously it's still clearing up the password. So we're going to have to type it in again because the other fields weren't filled in. So that's our initial validation method nearly completed. So what we need to do now is go back, and the last thing we need to do, if we go right to the bottom of our method, we've got our switch statement, which is ending here. And our jQuery each loop ends down here, and after this each loop, for each loop we're going to return and valid.length. Again, we check if there are any values inside of this array. Basically, if it's more than 0, meaning if it's not empty, then false, otherwise true. That basically will tell us when we're executing this specific method called initial validation. If we check it first, obviously do our client-side validation, whether there's any problem, whether there are any problems, obviously it's going to return false, otherwise it's going to return true. So now let's move to the next video when we start working with server-side validation.